Hi everyone, this is another Off the Post. Hopefully this will be the last time that we're filling in for Mr. Redcap, but we are again. It's been kind of a long, I don't want to say long week for people at Off the Post, but it kind of has been a bit of a long week for people at Off the Post. So the last couple shows we've had kind of a light crew, but an awesome crew nonetheless. So today we're going to talk about, so shout out to the Red Cap and everyone else, who's normally on here. Hope everyone's kind of back together soon. But words are hard today also, so that's a fair warning for everybody. But we're here, Courtney, Danielle, and Jen, and we were just here Monday, so I don't really know how everyone's week was. We'll check in. Danielle, how was your week? In the last couple days since we were on Monday.
Nothing special, just normal week, so nothing interesting.
That works. Jen, what about you? What's been going on in the busy life of Jen Cara?
Work as usual, school as usual. I had a soccer game today, so that was cool.
Yeah, Jen's rocking the Sporty Spice look today for today's show. So
I'm missing the tribal tattoo though. I have enough of my own, but I'm missing that one.
I was gonna say thank you for saying that because I was debating on whether to go there and make that joke, but thanks for knocking that out of the park for me. Anyways, we're just gonna get into the show, just a kind of a little if we don't have any NWSL to talk about, so gonna do a little U.S. Women's National Team review / preview. Just a couple things to talk about, so if anyone's checking in, and you have anything that you would like to contribute. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, any questions you want to ask us while we're here. So sometimes it might be a little bit easier to do that with, I guess, a smaller panel just because, it's not a whole long thing. So get on social media. I know I can check the Twitter, so those of you who are watching who are on Twitter, hashtag WOSOTalk, and hit us up while we're on air because we want to know what you're thinking. Maybe you think that we're talking about good things. Maybe you think that we're wrong. That's fine. So hit us up. So we're just going to kick it off. So we did have a show on this. A couple of us were on talking about, the thing going on with Australia Women's National Team and, how it affected the games. Obviously, we saw Haiti come in to replace them. What were your thoughts on, I guess, when you heard that Haiti was coming in? I think we probably asked this on the last show, but since it's a new show. When you heard Haiti was going to replace Australia, what were your thoughts? We'll go with Jen first.
Initially I was kind of disappointed because I love Australia. They're definitely one of my top 3 teams. They might be my number 2, after the U.S., of course. But, at first I was a little bit disappointed because I love watching them play. But I think then I realized the exposure that Haiti was going to be getting and the kind of experience that Haiti was going to be getting, and I was really excited for them. And, either way, we get to see our players play, which is nice, because right now, I feel like a lot of people maybe wanted to see a good game between the U.S. and Australia, which probably would have been a better game, but instead we're getting to kind of witness not only the growth of Haiti, but the growth of our own team, because Jill Ellis is kind of in a transition period now where she realizes, hey, I have a lot of players that are retiring. So she's moving players around and making a lot of changes. We saw the addition of Crystal Dunn to the roster. So it's exciting to see the growth of our own team, I think, too, which maybe we wouldn't have had as much against Australia.
Good call. Danielle, what were your thoughts?
Well, it made sense. I figured that was going to be the team that replaced them. I know Haiti had a game against Australia, so it just made sense logically. But watching the game, we were talking about exposure. I didn't realize their coach didn't get paid, the players didn't get paid, so anything to help them and do that, that's great exposure. And I thought they played really well, considering everything, the last minute, all of that. So, I think it was as good of a replacement team as we could get.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say Australia is probably one of my top teams, and so it was definitely disappointing when, we heard that they weren't going to make the trip. But, I think I mentioned this on the last show, and we read a lot about Haiti during the World Cup qualifiers, just kind of about they were kind of struggling with funding and stuff like that too, but they were still, again, willing to kind of donate what they had to Trinidad and Tobago and stuff like that. And so I know they were a team that we talked a lot about during that time, just about how not only like how amazing it was that they were trying to help another team who was struggling, but also just kind of how much they were struggling as funding-wise and development. So I think that it was really great for them to be able to play in front of however many people. I know it was like a record crowd for that, at least that area, that stadium, and however many people watched on TV too. As far as I know, people actually still watch, even though Thursday nights are kind of a busy night for TV and sports. There's football on too, but good for them. I think it was great to be able to play, and it was actually a lot closer game than I think a lot of us thought. And so, obviously, we'll talk about that throughout. But I think a lot of people were disappointed initially because they thought, oh, it's going to be even a worse blowout than Costa Rica, and it wasn't. That was the closest game actually between the U.S. and Haiti, I think, ever. They lost 6-0, I think, when they played them in the qualifiers. And for a long time, it was just going to be 4-0 until Crystal Dunn got that last-minute goal. So a lot closer match than everyone thought, and I think that that's really awesome. It was cool for people to kind of be like, well, maybe not the greatest team, but like they didn't get completely blown out like everyone thought they would. So, which has a little bit to do with kind of how the U.S. played and what they were trying out to be fair. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the first half. Danielle, what were your thoughts on, I guess, how both teams played during the first half?
Well, I mean...
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, actually, I guess starting with the lineups, what your thoughts were on the lineups, and then kind of go into the first half.
I didn't mind the lineup. I like seeing Crystal get the start. I don't really expect much from Victory Tour lineups. I see it more, fan service and all that. So, I mean, it was decent. I was hoping that either Harris or Nair got the start over Hope getting the start because, I mean, as much as we say how great Haiti played and all that, I mean, we didn't need Hope Solo on goal. But I get that it's for the fans, but I saw her as a second-half sub get the start for one of our other keepers. But, yeah, I thought it was an okay lineup. It's Victory Tour, so can't expect too much.
And then just thoughts on the first half of the game.
I actually thought it was kind of sloppy, but they didn't have a lot of time together, getting that chemistry. And as you guys were saying, this is a time where Jill is experimenting with lineups, getting new people in, putting people in different positions. So it was a little sloppy, but I mean, that's what's going to happen when you experiment with positions, when people get in, Tuesday and all that.
Great. Jen, what are your thoughts on the lineup in the first half of the game?
In theory, this lineup was great for me. I think once the team starts clicking a little bit better, this might be a lineup that I'd like to see in the future for sure. I think tactically, this lineup will be phenomenal. Obviously, again, it's a little bit rusty right now, just because we're trying to kind of figure things out and see where we're moving players and whatnot. For example, Tobin Heath is now taking up like that kind of number 6 role, which she's not used to. She's normally a winger. So just little things like that. But I definitely think that this formation, especially because Crystal Dunn was not playing defense, which was beautiful. So just little things like that. I think once we tweak it, once we get it perfected, I'll definitely like seeing a lineup like this with a lot of versatility on the field.
I'm gonna pick your brain a little bit, which I know is tired, so I apologize. But what are some of the things about this lineup? You're saying it could be a lineup that you really like. What are some things specifically that you're looking forward to hopefully seeing about this lineup if we see it in the future?
I think maybe more chemistry between the players once they're a little bit more comfortable in their roles, because right now I think they're so centered on trying to figure out what they need to do as a player that they can't focus as much on what they need to do as a team. So I think once they figure out their own roles, and again, I'm going to use Tobin as the example, who is normally a winger. Once she figures out, okay, this is how I have to play this role, this is how I have to move forward, this is how I have to hold, this is how I need to make these plays that I need to make. I think once she can figure that out, maybe the midfield will have better connections, and maybe once the midfield has better connections, they'll connect better with the forwards. So I think once the players can kind of get out of their own heads a little bit and figure out where they need to be and what they need to do and where they need to go, it'll work a lot better for the team as a whole.
Good points. What were your thoughts on the first half of the game?
Like Danielle said, it was a little bit sloppy, but again, it's they haven't played a lot together. They did just bring Crystal Dunn back in, so she's got to get reacclimated to playing on the national team level. And the other players have to get acclimated to her playing back on the national team level. So just little things like that. We definitely had some consistency issues, for sure. But overall, nothing that's not fixable. And that's why I hate to say it like this, but that's why, playing a team like Haiti is so great right now, because it gives us a chance to iron those things out.
No, I agree. I think that if you're playing Australia, I don't think you can necessarily make some of the lineup changes and tweaks that were made. I think that's people expect it to be a more closely contested game, and so I think perhaps Ellis maybe doesn't make some of those changes that she made, or doesn't try a specific lineup that she tries. I would agree. I would have liked to see. I'm glad she played second half, but I was disappointed that, again, Harris or Nair, but I would have preferred Harris. Would have started the game. I get. You want to have Hope Solo being in there because it's Hope Solo and it's a victory tour and great, but I don't know. She didn't need to, against Haiti especially, didn't need to start the game. She was going to come in the second half just so people could have, seen her play. And, again, it's victory tour for the fans, but I would have liked to see that happen. I just don't really have too many. Again, it's a victory tour. I always say, you're messing around, but my default is always saying you start Ali Krieger at right back. But again, this is a victory tour game, so you can have the freedom to have her come in as a second half sub. Players there are some players that I definitely would say need to start if this was a competitive match. When we look at going to the Olympics and qualifiers and things like that, players you have to have in certain positions. But for this purpose against this team, why not play around a little bit? I do also love that Crystal Dunn was not a defender, because I remember when she was called up and listed as a defender, I was really upset because I said this before, how do you have the Golden Boot winner as a defender? So I'm really glad that wasn't a thing. I also agree that the first half was really kind of sloppy, but again, just to echo what everyone said, they haven't played together for a while. You kind of expect it to happen. I will say I do think it was probably a little bit closer in the first half than I thought it would be, and again, a lot of that is because of the sloppiness. But and it's hard because I don't want to say it was a close game because Haiti played excellent, because obviously they had their issues also, but it was kind of a mix of both. I'd say the U.S. had some sloppy play, but I guess Haiti kind of had the presence to capitalize on that in the sense of they didn't really make it down the other end of the field, they didn't really challenge in the final third, but they were able to, the U.S. kind of wasn't making connections properly, and they were able to at least get the ball and kind of break up some of the possession. So, yeah, a lot closer than I thought, though. Super pumped for Crystal Dunn, though. Just playing amazingly, getting assists and all that stuff. And, yeah, I think it was great. I think I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but I think it's a pretty good statement that first game she has her in, she starts her, and she plays amazingly. And I think Tony, maybe it was in the commentary, mentioned that she thinks that Ellis has secretly penciled her into the Olympic roster. I don't really think it's a secret, but she keeps playing like that. I think it'll be hard to not take her to the Olympics, but I think I think Ellis has kind of made it clear that that's probably plan anyways, assuming that she can make the decision she needs to make to get her on the roster, saying they have to cut it down, but there's that. What were some of your thoughts on the second half? We'll start with Jen.
My big thumb on the second half was Crystal Dunn. And you can argue that she had a better first half because she saw more ball possession, I think, in the first half. She had more assists in the first half, whatever. But the Crystal Dunn I'm used to seeing in Washington came out in the second half, I think, because I've been saying all season over and over and over again, like a broken record, every time my spirit are down, that you can never count out Crystal Dunn. And once again, in stoppage time, there's Crystal Dunn with a goal. Yeah, that's just what I'm used to seeing as a Spirit fan, and to see that on a national level was so exciting for me. And that was her first international goal. So, like, I adore that woman. So I was so pumped for her as a person and as a player, for her to get that goal. But other than that, the second half was kind of. I liked seeing Tobin play for a while with Holiday, because I feel like if they can get some more time together, like maybe Holiday will just put some brilliance into Tobin on what she needs to do in that role. So I did like seeing that for a little while until that weird sub where Christy Rampone went in for Tobin. But other than that, I mean, Carly Lloyd was another hat trick because it's Carly Lloyd. Other than that, I mean, the second half was just, it was kind of what I expected from the U.S. team. Something unfortunate that I kept noticing with Haiti was that their players were getting a lot of injuries. A lot of injuries, a lot of cramping. I don't know if that was the heat. I don't know if that was them not being used to playing on turf. I'm not sure what their natural surface is in Haiti. And that was a conversation a couple of us were having. We don't know if they play on turf or not in Haiti, to be honest. So that might have been a big factor in that. And then you combine heat and turf, and those are like the two worst things on the planet. So there were just a lot of issues that the Haitian players were having, and that was really unfortunate because they did have a pretty good game. They stood up pretty strongly. So, it kind of sucked to watch them keep facing those injuries. So hopefully they can get that ironed out before the Birmingham game, but we'll see. I'm excited to see what Haiti's going to bring to the second game.
Good point. Yeah, heat and turf are not a great combination. As we've learned with all the heat turf debate issues that happened during the World Cup, I didn't really look like. I mean, the field didn't really look that great either. Period. Just from the stream, it looked kind of rough. So I'm sure that none of that really helped. But Danielle, what were some of your thoughts on the second half?
I thought the second half was all right. I was personally a little stressed out because I just felt I was worried about injuries the whole time, especially watching the Haitian players get injured, and then I was worried because there was a couple times where there were some fouls that might not have been as necessary. And as an FCKC fan, I worried because I don't want my players getting injured before the final. You don't want Seattle's players getting injured before the final. You don't want anyone getting injured, to be honest. But I mean. Also, Crystal Dunn. I mean, Crystal had a role in 3 of the 5 goals, which is crazy awesome. The 2 assists in the first half, her goal in the second half. And then I think the subs were the story for me in the second half. You're talking about Rampone going on for Tobin, which led to my favorite position change of the night, Becky Sauerbrunn in the midfield, which was so great. So great. Thought she might get that goal, but she won't score if I'm watching. I've been told that. But I thought she was good, and, for me, subs were the second half story.
We're going to come back to the subs conversation in just a second. But, yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It was kind of difficult to watch the second half. I mean, there wasn't necessarily a whole lot of action, so I don't want to say that I was bored, but I was kind of just like, I felt my mind kind of wandering, like, okay, that's fair. I mean, I just probably didn't want to say it, but now that you said it, I was a little bit bored. Which, I mean, is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think people can see that either way. I know some people it depends on what you like to see. I know some people were probably expecting a blowout and wanted to have seen a second half full of goals, but then there's people who were disappointed that they thought they were going to see a blowout, who maybe probably enjoyed the fact that it was a closer game and there wasn't like necessarily a whole lot of craziness happening. I don't know, it really just depends on what you're like. People, if you're watching out there, let us know what your thoughts on the second half were. Were you bored? Were you fine with it? What's going on? Just talk to us, people. I agree. It definitely was concerned, and I think the issue with Haiti, and I definitely would have ideally liked to have seen him make more subs. The Haiti coach, however, they don't have a very deep bench. So, I mean, ideally, I would have liked for him to sub his goalkeeper out a lot earlier because she just really looked like she was struggling and was hurt and was kind of forging on. The problem with that is that their backup goalkeeper, he wanted to get her minutes, but she's only 17. I mean, a lot of people on that team are young. Like, it was a 17-year-old came in for, like, an 18-year-old, and the goalkeeper 17. They're all really, really young. And Noy said he wanted to get her some minutes because they're going to go into, like, U20 qualification. But I would like to maybe see that change happen sooner because I think that it was like you could see that she was struggling. It was very clear to see that. Then you notice a lot of other players kind of going down. And again, I don't know, was that the heat? Was it the turf? What was going on? But they don't have a deep bench, and hopefully they get themselves, if it was kind of like a heat issue, they get themselves super hydrated before the game tomorrow because I can tell you if they were struggling in Detroit, they're really going to be struggling in, Birmingham, Alabama. It's probably significantly warmer, and the surface is going to be probably a lot hotter, and they're going to be, if cramping was an issue then, I can see that certainly being an issue now. And just, again, with not having a very deep bench, hopefully they can kind of sort all that out before the game tomorrow. Just because they don't really have a whole lot of players they can kind of play around with. If someone gets hurt, they only have so many subs. But, I mean, it was great to see Crystal Dunn's goal second half. Like, I really just was waiting for it, and then it was, like, stoppage time, and I was like, oh, my God, there it is. Like, hey, what's up? I love everything about that goal. I love Allie Krieger running over to her, and, like, that celebration. I don't like hugs, but, like, was, like, one of the first people to, like, run over there and, like, have her jump on. Like, that was just great. And I know some people saw there was a picture of her and Crystal and Allie and Ashlyn, and they just looked like a little proud, like Allie and Ashlyn looked like little proud spirit parents, and it was just really, like, adorable picture. And I like that just because, like, it was a great goal, but I just love how, I think everyone recognizes that, we could still argue about whether she should have been on the World Cup roster or not, but I think everyone acknowledges how much of a beast she was in the NWSL, and I think to see, her come back from that disappointment of not making the roster to, like, killing it in the NWSL to getting finally called back in and then getting, like, getting the start in her first game back with the national team, getting her first, international goal. It was just like an awe moment. I got a little emotional, perhaps, maybe just a little tiny bit. Reed, I really, really did. But, like, that was just wonderful, and, like, yeah, the second half was kind of boring, but, like, that's fine. It was worth sitting through for that moment for me personally, and I'm sure other people feel the same way. So, and I like a lot of the subs are really interesting also. So we'll go to the subs because, I mean, I'm always happy to see Ashlyn on the field because I think, again, she should have started because why not? But I'm glad that even though, we didn't really see any or a lot of action, I think it's good to get. My whole argument was, eventually, if God forbid something happens to Hope Solo, or, like, when she decides to retire, having your backup goalkeeper only have, like, 4 caps at the time of the World Cup is not a great thing. So I'm glad we're seeing her. There's been so many friendlies that the U.S. have played where I've been like, why is Hope Solo playing and starting? It's unnecessary, and, like, what are you doing? So I'm happy to see her get some more time. I'm happy, obviously, to see Allie. Anytime Allie Krieger's on the field, too, I'm, like, a happy person. So I was glad for that also. But and then, yeah, some of the interesting subs that changed some positions around. What were your thoughts on the subs? We'll go to Jen first.
I was super excited to see Allie and Ashlyn go in just because it was like my 3 little spirit babies on the field all at the same time, and that was really exciting for me, especially when one of them scored. But I think we kind of at this point expect Abby to go in just because, if for no other reason, it is a victory tour, and everybody wants to see Abby. So, we kind of expect Abby to go in, I think. Holiday going in for Morgan Bryan was kind of a natural thing, so that wasn't too weird. The weird one for me was definitely Rampone going in for Tobin, and then, again, that kind of switched up positioning on the field, which was cool. But Heyo went in for Kristen Press. So, some of them made sense, some of them not so much. But it definitely made for interesting play in the second half. I think most of them were done right off the bat in, like, the 46th minute.
Mm-hmm.
actually, I think they were split in half. I think 3 of them were done right at like 46, and then the others were done somewhere around like 64-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a switch up. Like we saw the first switch up at that halftime mark, and it was kind of like, well, okay, whatever. And then the second switch up came, and we were like, oh, that's interesting. So yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see. Again, I think it gave maybe Tobin a little bit more of the time she needed with someone like Lauren Holiday. Abby, of course, got Abby exposure. And Brune in the midfield was a great thing. So the subs were interesting, but they were kind of cool to see.
Were you at all surprised that it was Sauerbrunn that moved up? Because I know even they mentioned it on the stream, like the telecast, that they thought if they were going to move one of the center backs, that it would have been Julie Johnston, just because she's played in that role before, and B, a lot of people before she moved to the back line, or while she initially moved to the back line, were like, why is she not in the midfield? Were you surprised that it was Sauerbrunn that moved up instead of Johnston?
I'm not surprised by anything anymore.
Fair.
So, no, not really. It's for me, it's kind of like watching Ali Krieger move up for Washington Spirit. Yeah, it's okay, this is somebody that can hold the ball in the midfield, but also has the power to push forward, because that's what she does for the back line. I mean, she's been solid for the back line all year. In my opinion, probably the best defender in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that she's been able to hold the ball so well and yet still be able to switch the field when she needs to, still have the tactical ability to, find the spaces she can find and move the ball forward when she needs to. For me, it wasn't that weird to see her in the midfield.
Danielle, you mentioned some about the subs. What else? Do you have any other thoughts on the subs that were made? And I guess, same question. Were you surprised that it was Sauerbrunn that ended up moving up there instead of Johnston?
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I don't see Brune as midfield. Seeing her perhaps CKC, she's a center back. I mean, that is her natural. She is the best defender in the world. I don't think that's an opinion at this point. So seeing her in mid, but with all the subs, it was kind of cool because at one point, being an FCKC fan, the midfield was Holiday, Brune, and Heyo. So that was kind of fun for me. Other than that, I liked Abby going in only because I didn't want Alex to get hurt, and I know there's a couple things, like there's one time when her and the Haiti goalkeeper just ran into each other. And I mean, Alex isn't that far removed from surgery and all that, or her injury and all that, so I was glad to get Alex out of there, to be honest. But yeah, the subs were a bit silly, but I think they made sense for a victory tour. So.
Yeah, I was happy to see Abby go in there, and I guess when I was happy when Abby went in there that we didn't just default to like the whack it to Abby formation, which I think, because we still don't know if she's going to play in the Olympics. I don't think she still knows if she's going to play in the Olympics, and I think if she, and I'm going to slightly disagree, and all the Wambach super fans are going to come after me, and that's whatever, but I say that, but no one's come after me yet for some of the things I put this off the post this year. So I think, because I think the announcer said, oh, if Wambach wants to play, I don't see how you leave her off the roster. And I disagree with that, because I don't think, and they talked about just on her leadership alone, and they said even if she can contribute only 10 minutes per game, like, you have to have her on the team for your leadership. Respectfully disagree with that, just because, I mean, yes, she has great leadership, capabilities and skills, and like people look to her as a leader on the team, but I think what Ellis really has to look at is like contribution, and like her contribution in the World Cup was overall minimum. I'm not saying it wasn't important, it certainly was, but it was not a necessarily a huge contribution. And I think when you have to cut down a roster, you have to look at like who's going to be able to contribute the most. And I think, yes, you look at leadership capabilities also, but also look at who's going to be able to best, do the work and things like that. And I think an interesting point that they mentioned on the telecast was that someone had asked her like if she's been doing like training on her own and things like that, because she hadn't been with the NWSL season, a team. And I think she said that she hadn't done any training on the ball or with the ball for like a long time, and that's almost to me kind of questioning like, well, is she really leaning towards coming back then? Because if you're not really training necessarily like specific soccer stuff, and you're kind of just training for overall fitness, like, I don't know, again, that could just be me reading too much into it, but I think that just it's kind of adding up, like, just when I talked to her before the Pittsburgh game and, like, hearing all these things, like, is she really leaning towards coming back or not? But, again, for the Victory Tour, I'm glad that she played, and, you know, if she doesn't come back, I'm glad that, you know, we're not taking up the whack it to Wambach philosophy, because if she's not going to play in the Olympics, then that's not going to be a thing that happens anyway. So I'm glad that we're kind of getting ourselves out of that mode of play now. I agree, don't want to have Alex Morgan get hurt either. And she was getting kind of beat around, so I'm glad that that was a thing. Also, and yeah, I would say that I was surprised that it was Sauerbrunn that was moved up, just because, again, I haven't necessarily followed Becky Sauerbrunn's, like, career as much, but I don't know that that's a position she's played before that normally people would think about. I know if you think about, we're going to move a defender to the midfield on the national team, people would think JJ, but I mean, it all kind of worked out, and I think we got to see players we wanted to see, and it was a thing. It worked out. It was fine. So, and I think especially for a Victory Tour game, like, people got to see players they wanted to see play, a good mix of, like, new people and veteran. Like, it was great. It was fine. So I actually don't have a problem with any of the subs for once. Normally I do. Before we move on, Mr. Redcap himself has a couple of comments that he wants to contribute via hashtag #WosoTalk. So people, make it happen. He says, I was front row and the game looked like it was being played on one side of the field, which, you know, obviously we kind of talked about. Haiti never really got the ball over to the U.S. Final third at all. So, and then regarding the second half and being bored, he says he went to buy a T-shirt and the World Cup book during the second half. It was extremely boring. It wasn't fun to watch. So thank you, DJ. We're sad that you're not with us, but we appreciate that you're writing in and watching and still hanging out with us via Twitter. So shout out, and we appreciate that. One of the things that you talked about, Danielle, was you were kind of worried about some of the subs or things like that, just because of the fact that I know FC Casey people were playing. What are you guys' thoughts on the players who were going to be in the final playing in the game? Did you want them to play? Did you want them to be, I guess, maybe held out due to fear of injury? Like, what were some of your thoughts? We'll go back to Danielle first.
Well, I mean, I understand why they play. People want to see Lauren Holiday play. It's, she's going to retire at the end of the season. You have to have Heyo in there. Just selfishly, I get nervous, especially for games that, even if it wasn't, I think it got chippy, but even if it wasn't, the fear of that, just from a fan perspective, I worry. I know the players. I think Megan Rapinoe straight up said she didn't want to be there. She wanted to be training with Seattle. I think a championship's a big deal. So, the fact that they were there, I think it goes more into the timing of the games more than anything, I guess. I just hope they don't have 90 in the next game and can go back and can rest a little bit and then really get into training.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I didn't hear what Megan Rapinoe did or didn't say, but I did hear somewhere that she was kept out of this game. I think she was having some muscle soreness or something like that also. So, I mean, in that case, certainly glad to not have her play, because she's already, especially if she's, like, I don't want to say injured, but experiencing some, like, fatigue or soreness, we definitely don't want to play her. But, Jen, what are your thoughts on the people who are going to be in the final playing in these friendlies or Victory Tour games?
I'm kind of torn on it because, it's the Victory Tour. They're going to be there, and that's the thing. They're not going to, stay in Seattle to train and not even show up to the Victory Tour. So then you're dealing with an issue of, do they go and not play and let their muscles get, tensed up and tightened and, kind of out of shape for a little while from them not playing at all? Do you risk them losing what little bit of playing time they have before the final? Because at this point they don't have any games left, because obviously the next one's the final. So even against a team like Haiti, they still gain experience. They still gain, learning how to work with other players, even if they're not the players on their club team. So injury is always a risk. I never want to see any of our players get injured, whether they have a final coming up or not. But at the same point, it's kind of, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I don't want them to get injured playing on turf that I think it was Crystal Dunn said was like really bumpy and really crappy to begin with. So that's putting them kind of in a rough situation right off the bat. But at the same time, they do need to keep playing. They do need to keep growing, gaining experience, letting their muscles loosen up, and kind of get into that rhythm. Because I mean that it's the way things work. When we work for 90 million days straight and then take a vacation, the worst thing ever is going back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of can get into that same mindset of, if we take this much time off, they're not going to have the same mindset going into the final. So I'm kind of torn on it.
Wise words from Jen Carl, who actually does work 90 billion days or 90 billion hours all the time. Yeah, I was really torn also. I think, like, absolutely people want to see them play, especially Lauren Holiday, who is, we know it for sure is retiring. Some of them, I'm trying to, like, I have to go back and look because I don't remember when all of them came on, but I think it's good to have them on. Like, it definitely is good to have them come in the game. I think the way it was done, like, I know, like, maybe Lauren Holiday coming in on the, like, at halftime, she was one of the halftime subs. Maybe I, don't play her a full half. I don't necessarily mind O'Reilly coming in. She came in like 30 minutes. I don't really have a problem with that because I do agree. Yes, they have training they can do, with their teams, but they're not playing another. There's no, like, oh, we're playing. Most sports you play competitively. I guess most games. I feel like there's some time off, like in football, like there's time off before the Super Bowl, I guess, but like not. I don't know. I think it's just it's strange this year to have such a gap between the semifinal and the final. So I think in some senses it's good to be able to get some game experience. So I guess I don't have a problem with them playing. Again, I don't know that I would have subbed one of them on the half, but I know Hope Solo generally against. Hope Solo for the Seattle is fine, because she's, again, probably not going to see a whole lot of action, so she's probably just going to stand there. And so, again, there's always risk of getting hurt, that one ball that might come her way, God forbid, but, like, hopefully it doesn't happen. But, that's fine. I don't have a problem with other people coming in, again, maybe not a full 45 minutes, but.
Yeah, Becky went 90. I think she's the only final player that went 90.
You're right. Thank you for that too. Yeah, and Sauerbrunn going 90. Like I don't know that you have Whitney Engen. Like why? So I agree. I mean, I'm torn because I think people want to see them play, and then also, it was good for them to have some match time in between, before the final because they could train all they want, but they're not having competitive matches. I think that's a part of preparation for a final also, but. Yeah, hopefully next game, like, I don't necessarily, again, want to see people playing a full half. I certainly don't want Sauerbrunn playing a full 90. I mean, I don't know that I would play Sauerbrunn at all, to be honest. I know people want to see her play, but I don't know that I would do that just because there's kind of a lot going on. But hopefully they'll kind of balance that out next game. We didn't see Amy Rodriguez play, and obviously Megan Rapinoe didn't play, so who knows if we'll see. Again, Rapinoe might be still having, like, if she's experiencing muscle soreness or anything like that, you might not want to risk her. But maybe we'll see Amy Rodriguez play again. Wouldn't necessarily want to see her play a full 90 minutes, though, just because you kind of have to. There's still time before the final, but you still want to be careful with your players. But, yeah, that was kind of torn for me. I'm not really, I see why they were played and the benefit of them playing, but, you always want to be careful. And like Jen said, the risk for injury is always there regardless. So, but I think especially when you're playing a team where, there were some hard fouls, and that's just kind of how things go, playing certain teams. So hopefully that, I feel that Ellis kind of knows what she's doing too. She's aware that she has players who are playing in a final in a couple of weeks, and I think that she'll try to balance that out and probably be hearing from some angry coaches if not, I guess. Like, I can just picture Vlatko and Laura Harvey, like, calling her, being like, Alice, what are you doing playing my people 90 minutes? But,
well, I mean, if you think about it, like, Spirit fans and most of the national team fans had like the worst nightmare ever when Ali Krieger, playing in the NWSL against Houston, took a knock to the head and almost missed the World Cup. So I mean, it's kind of the same situation there, but in a way, it's almost a risk you have to take.
I mean, yeah, no, I understand that, and I think again, like it is a risk, but I think a lot of people's argument to that would be like, well, it's just a friendly, but still, like I think again, there's still value in them playing and not just kind of not having any competitive match time up until the final, but. We'll see what happens next game and just kind of knock on wood and hope everyone's cool for the final because you definitely don't want to see anyone to get hurt right before a championship game because that's unfortunate. We'll just move on to we're starting to talk about the next game, but what are your expectations for the next game, which is tomorrow, Jen?
For me, it depends on conditions, I think, because I'd like to say I kind of actually expect maybe a little more from Haiti showing up tomorrow. At this point, they kind of know, they're kind of settling in. They kind of know that we're tweaking things, trying to find our rhythm with things, and I kind of would hope that the same thing would happen with Haiti that happened with Costa Rica, where, Costa Rica had an opportunity to score a couple of goals to get their girls forward and really pressure us and get some into the back of the net. I don't know that I'm saying Haiti will get some into the back of the net, but I certainly hope that they show up and they make that showing to do so. But again, I think it's kind of conditional based on just the injuries that they were experiencing in Detroit and what the conditions are going to be like in Birmingham. Because if it's still excruciatingly hot, if it's still really crappy turf, if whatever the variables are, that could come back and kind of play into that a lot. From us, I kind of expect more of the same. I expect a little bit more of the tweaking, a little bit more of figuring out people's new roles, and then, of course, just playing it as a victory tour, seeing the players that everybody wants to see before they retire or before they, go off and do their own thing. So I'd expect a lot of the same stuff from us, I think.
All right. Danielle, what are your thoughts on the game tomorrow?
Well, my hopes and expectations are kind of two separate things. I
Okay.
hope it's a really good game. I hope Haiti really, like Jen was saying, kind of like Costa Rica, where they got a chance to get those goals and have a really competitive match. I would love to see that. My expectations, I think it will be kind of a blowout. I see the chemistry probably there for our team. So I see a lot more goals happening. I see the players who didn't get the start last game get the start for this. Hopefully, I hope Nair gets the start in goal. That would be great. I hope to see, a little bit of a mixture. So I hope it's a good game. I don't expect it necessarily to be.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I'm just concerned about the recovery of the Haiti players, like how that, how much of that was just cramping because there were like hot and turf and stuff like that, or how many like there might be actual injuries, especially their goalkeeper who really kind of seemed to get banged up a lot. I think it could go either way. Like I would like to see them. I'm kind of in Danielle's boat. I would like to see them do better. I would like to see them, kind of have their stuff more together and challenge US a little bit more. Again, depending on kind of like what Jen said, I'm going to agree with both. Kind of depending on like what Jen said, just based on some of their injuries and if the conditions, I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen. I think potentially just because I think they're more worn out and again, they have less subs. The US can start a whole bunch of players who didn't even see time and be cool. He doesn't have that luxury, so they have to play a lot of the same players that played the other night. Who might not be fully recovered, might be struggling with the conditions and things like that. So I think it's going to be a little bit more of a blowout. But we'll see. I do agree. I don't know that Nair is going to start, but I certainly think we had the Solo Harris split last game. I think we're going to see the Solo Nair split. That seems to be kind of how it's going. I feel like Solo's going to be in there regardless because it's the Victory Tour game, but then they've kind of been splitting Harris and Nair time up. So I expect that that's probably going to happen. I don't know that Nair will start, but I think she definitely gets in there. I think players who didn't play at all will probably get in there just because why not? It's Victory Tour. And yeah, I mean, like you said, you guys both kind of touched on both things. Like Haiti could kind of, get themselves, they know what to expect now. They could try to provide a bit more of a challenge, but I also think that conditions are going to be kind of questionable. Maybe not in general, but just for them and, their kind of experience and things like that. So we'll see. I think it's probably going to be a little bit more of a blowout, though, than it was this past game. But I kind of hope I'm wrong. I'm going to go off the cuff a little bit here, a question that we haven't really talked about. But obviously for the next game is tomorrow, so I don't really expect a lot of actual, like call-up changes. But do you guys expect, we saw the calling up of Crystal Dunn for this series. Do you guys think that we'll see more new players potentially pulled in? As I know Ellis mentioned before the first Victory Tour game that the first couple games are going to be focused on Victory Tour, and while the other games are still Victory Tour games, there's at some point she's going to have to start looking at putting things together for the Olympics. So do you guys think in upcoming games, there's 2 more games against Brazil already scheduled, and then there's some games that haven't even been scheduled yet. They're going to be in December. Do you guys think at any point she's going to be calling up other players that haven't been kind of in the mix? And if so, what are some names that you think could potentially be out there? We'll go with Danielle.
I don't know. I see Dunn as the obvious. I think if she does, it will be the ones who were kind of in there. As unpopular as this is, and as much as I don't necessarily agree,
I know what you're going to say.
I see Long getting the call up, all that. Not that I necessarily want it, but I think it's the logical choice for Ellis. I don't really see a lot of mix-up until probably the January camp. I do know on Thursday that they were saying names like Buzzkowski and Robinson. I think that ship has probably sailed, unfortunately, which I could rant for probably an hour about that one myself. They mentioned Tim Rack, who obviously I'd love to see in there. I see those names like, Tim Rack and Ohio and all of these really great young players. I see them more of January camp call-ups than anything.
Okay. Jen, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with Danielle on this one. I mean, there's so many things we're trying to focus on just with the core team we have now that trying to add brand new players into the mix is going to be almost impossible. So I think if anybody does get a call-up, it's going to be someone that has spent some time with the national team, like Crystal Dunn, who, as everybody loves to keep reminding us, was the last one cut from the roster. So
I tried to bring that up.
Yeah. So, I think it will be players like her, like Allie Long, like, maybe Tim Rack, players that, have left their mark with Jill Ellis somewhere already. I just don't see a big switch up until that January camp, like Danielle said. So
I would agree that I don't necessarily think that I see a big switch up, but I do think we do see, maybe not brand new players, but I do think that we do see some of those players that have spent time with the team before in December probably, the last couple of games. I begrudgingly agree with Allie Long just because she had a great season and whatever, but that's logical. Probably not someone for like December, but I also think in the future, I know people were not impressed with her season with the Flash, but I know people kicked around Sam Ewis a lot, and I could definitely see her getting another go at the national team, especially because she was still fairly young when she was up with the team, recently, like a Flash year and a ago. So I don't know that I would necessarily see her in December. I mean, or like in this Victory Tour. I mean, it's possible, but I think we're going to see at least 1 or 2 additional call-ups before January camp. And then I think you're right, January camp is where we could see a lot of new faces potentially. But I think Ellis does kind of have to start working in some additional people potentially before January, just because it's such a small time frame before qualifiers. So that's just my thought. We'll see. Definitely, obviously, we're going to see some changes in January camp, but I do think that at some point in this Victory Tour, there'll be at least 1 or 2 more names called up. Who that'll be, who knows? But, yeah. All right. So we're moving on to kind of wrapping up this show. We're going to move on over to the rant section. I know you said you didn't have one earlier, but Jen, did you do anything that you want to kind of throw out there?
Yeah, I don't really have a rant. I just like all of our panelists this week. like, they're all suffering,
Hearts,
and I feel
hearts,
really bad.
all the
Like
hearts.
like Neil and Kay and DJ. I hope you guys all feel better. DJ's watching with squinty eyes right now. Um, and Jackie and Graham, please wrap yourselves in bubble wrap or something so that nothing happens to you. But yeah, no, I really don't have a rant. I mean, that's kind of it.
Sorry, I was reading. The red cap is really kicking in today. He did say sad that he couldn't be on, but he'll be back and healthy soon. So we hope that that's true, DJ. And then he says, "Get in there, Long. The trollingest choice for Ellis." And notes that you seem to not care much for her, Danielle. DJ, you know this. None of us really care. I'm thinking I can speak for all. None of us really care for her that much. So, not just Danielle. I think that's a panel decision that none of us really care for her, but I think most of us could agree that it's probably a logical choice. And I don't want to say unfortunately, because I don't know Allie Long as a person. She's just not my favorite player, so I'm not going to say I don't want her to be called up because that's mean. But not my favorite player, but logical choice perhaps. So yes, everybody off the post, people get better. I hope your weeks improve, and thanks, Jen. Danielle. Kicking it on over. Let's have it.
All right, so hopefully I can articulate this really well, but it's something I noticed. I was actually on the Facebook NWSL supporter group, saw a couple of references to this. It's been something I've heard last season, and that's kind of fans of the NWSL and our national team kind of get entitled sometimes. They feel like they have to get the autographs. They feel like the players owe it. I think I heard somebody say the players have to because they have it's their duty to sign autographs for 20, 30, 40 minutes because of supporting the league. Yes, but just because they didn't get to your section doesn't mean they don't care. I'll be honest, I have signed jerseys. My prized possession is my Becky Sauerbrunn jersey in my other room. I love it. They don't owe you an autograph. I can't think of any other team in the world that cares about their fans and will stay out as much as our national team. I can't think of a league where there's more chance for autographs than the NWSL. And so I feel like when somebody gets skipped, they automatically get really entitled and will rant and be like, this person hates their fans and this person's a B word and all that. Calm down. They're trying. It's 25-year-old woman who just played 90 minutes. Maybe she hasn't seen her family in 3 months. Maybe her best friend is there. Maybe she just doesn't feel like being screamed at by little girls. I know that some players hate that when they go over, they just get screamed at and it makes them uncomfortable. They're trying. Don't get entitled. Just give them the benefit of the doubt.
I think that was very articulate indeed, actually, and I would just to kind of comment, I don't really have a rant, so just I guess to kind of comment, again, I agree, there's really not a whole lot of other leagues where after a game you have chances to get autographs from players, most other people are like, peace out, we're done playing, bye, that's it, see you later. And I guess also to take into account, you kind of mentioned it can be really overwhelming also, I've been, Jen's been trampled by, screaming people, and she's working at theater games, and just... even me after post game trying to get back to my car, in Rochester or even in other places, just trying to get back to my car and the swarms of people who are just everywhere. You just understand that that's very overwhelming for people, especially they could be feeling certain emotions. They just played 90 minutes or half an hour, whatever part of a game. There's emotions that go with that. You're tired, whatever. And I say that people try the best that they can, but it is really. Even if they're not screaming in my face, I know I get really freaked out and intimidated by just people screaming in general and just wanting to get the heck out of there. So I think sometimes it becomes difficult when, and sometimes people get rude about it. They push and they, push against barriers, and then it's, I have to think about a safety thing also. They push against things or yelling and screaming in your face, and I think that is sometimes overwhelming for players, and I think that they try their best to get to sign for as many people. You also have to realize especially NWSL, there were 34,000 people at this game on Thursday. There's NWSL games between 3,000 and 5,000 people. You're not going to be able to sign for everyone. That's crazy. You'll never leave this place. So, good rant. I would agree with that. I think that, I think it's a bonus. People get to sign autographs, and I totally understand. Again, I have signed jerseys on my wall too, and I appreciate that I have them. and I've been disappointed when I haven't been able to get stuff signed by people. So like I definitely understand that there's disappointment that comes with if you don't get your stuff signed. But right on, Danielle. You tell them. Do I have a rant this week? I don't think I have a rant this week. I don't. The heat maybe would be my rant this week, but it's actually finally going to turn into fall tomorrow. The schedule for the weather for a whole week now has nothing above like 67, and I am like the happiest person in the world. So my rant was that it was cool and it was teasing me about being fall and it was nice and chilly out, and then like this whole week was 85 and it was terrible. That would be my rant this week. And my like happy moment is that it's gone and it's going to be nice and cool now and amazing. Going back to Twitter real quick just before we move on, Jen Hayes says, yes, preach it, Danielle, regarding your rant. So right on with that. And DJ says he's got a rant, but I won't specifically throw it. But DJ had a rough time in Detroit. You know, he had a good time at the game, rough time in Detroit. So that's his rant, is just Detroit and his eyes and his car and stuff and all that jazz. And so that's again, since he can't join us, I figured I'd pass along the rant of Mr. Redcap. Anyone else have anything that they want to talk about before we kind of say, hey, this actually was, you know, I thought it was going to be a pretty quick show, but I'm glad we had a pretty good discussion about things that are going on. And anyone have anything else to say before we peace out?
I'm good.
Outstanding. So this was another episode of Off the Post. Thanks for watching. Don't forget the women's national team plays tomorrow. I try to do things in Eastern Standard. I think it's 1:30 like Central Time. So if you're on the East Coast, 2:30. I think I'm bad with that, but that's my guess.
1:30 Central, so 2:30 Eastern. But that's probably pregame.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. Maybe that's my rant. Tell us when the kickoff is. Like, specify. Tell us the pregame's at 7, the kickoff's at 7:30. Tell us that, because I was all like, I'm gonna miss the game because I have a staff meeting, and then I get back from staff meeting at 7:30, and the game's just starting. Cool, like that's exciting. It worked out well. But just tell us that. I know they don't because I want people to watch the pregame, but like, tell us the game starts. Tell us kickoff's a half hour later. I mean, we all could probably assume that by now, but like, come on. I'm going to be doing the TV juggle tomorrow because the Patriots are on, but go national team and go Patriots. But so yeah, thanks, Jen. I could say something right now, but I'm not going to. So there's that. Thanks for watching Off the Post. Check in tomorrow. You know, 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern. Back up that time zone because I can't do them all. But thanks for watching. I'm sure we'll have a show to talk about that game, preview the NWSL final. Hopefully Mr. Redcap will be back in action, but look out for when that's going to be because we haven't figured that out yet. And thanks again for watching. You know what to do, everyone. Wave. Bye to the people. All right. Rock on.